So yes, I did it. All right, welcome everyone. It's good to Zoom with you. I really would love somebody to write a dictionary of Zoom terminology for the quarantine era. How do you Zoom? What's Zooming today? Etc. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about, since last week I gave like a class that actually touched on so many parts of Bimidbad. Last week we spoke a lot about the idea of, why? What's wrong with my screen, Victoria? Tell me, I don't know. Can everybody see me? But let me know if you could see me. I hope you could see me. I could see myself.
You're totally fine.
Yeah, it's fine? Okay. So last week we spoke about chaos and order. Very big themes in the Torah, certainly in Sefer Bimidbad. And the Torah likes to juxtapose those two states of being, about the beauty of order, which is almost like you see this almost divine ideal, and the inevitability of chaos. And a lot of the chaos, of course, emerges from human error, human misunderstandings, definitely from distance from God. A lot of what we spoke about last week was about how distance from God, I didn't articulate it this way last week, but we spoke about how the root of all evil somehow has to do with the unregulated ego. And in a lot of ways, I do believe that the Torah says that when we allow our sense of self to blind us to the world, in many ways we're becoming more and more distant from God. And I do think almost everything that we say is gonna connect back to that. Today, I want to talk a little bit, going into the next set of episodes in Sefer Bimidbad, which is about complaining. And when I wrote the topic for the class, my first thought was, maybe I'll call this class, Are We Allowed to Complain? Or is complaining worthwhile? And what do we think about complaining in general? And then I decided it's not really about complaining. It's something about the way we use words and language. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make it about how we use our voices, what we do with our words and our language and our voices, and how we communicate. The reason I think this is interesting, I was thinking a lot about this parasha, that we're going to be reading, and into next week and the week after, and in general, there's going to be a lot of people complaining about a lot of things. And my thought whenever I read it is, does Hashem dislike complaining, just an objective thing? A lot of people don't like human beings who are very whiny or complain. Like, we don't like it when people complain. As you know, I have a job where I have to interact with human beings a lot, and I don't like it when people complain. I find it very annoying when people complain. But there's a big but there, meaning the issue is that complaining is a necessary thing at certain junctures, right? I'm gonna, I think about, as a mom, let's say, my kids, what's our reaction when somebody complains to us? I want every person here to think about that for a minute. And the language we use even around this is important, that first of all, we hear whatever is going on as a complaint. And a complaint feels like a criticism. And a criticism feels like something we have to defend ourselves against, right? And a lot of people are writing, listen, it depends on the tone. I think, ungrateful, yes. So, I like the analogy of, like, I'm thinking about my family. My dad had just said, when am I coming to visit them in Deal? And I'm just like, the image that popped into my mind is like my brother Ezra. I don't know if he's here, but my brother Ezra, who tells his kids, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Like, if they're whining or they're complaining, he's like, I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying. You're not speaking in English. But when the grandma comes in, and now the dad is sitting there with his arms crossed, and there's a little baby on the floor, hysterical, crying, saying, I want ISIS. Why can't I have ISIS? I don't want another ISIS. Now, the dad already gave the kid 5 ISIS. Like, right? That's what happened. This is the kid's 6 ISIS that he's requesting. The grandma or the grandpa comes in. They're like, you are so mean. What are you doing to this innocent, deprived child? Just give them the ISIS. They get the ISIS. They give it to the kid. Now the parent's like, you've just destroyed my whole parenting method. I was trying to teach them that we don't speak that way, etc., etc. But what a lot of older parents and grandparents have realized that I find that, and this is not true of all young parents, and if you're a young parent, you could ignore this, but a lot of young parents don't see what the grandparents see, which is something else is bothering this child. Don't get so angry at them. It's sometimes, maybe they're tired, maybe, they see the bigger picture, and nothing is that big of a deal for them that they're going to take this, this massive stance against complaining. They sort of know how to roll with it a little bit better. That was one example I wanted to give. Another example is, I guess at work, I have a lot of parents who complain to me, and I agree with a lot of people in the chat who are saying, don't kill me, LOL, complaining is different when it comes to from a man or a woman. I'm not going to kill you. I'm a woman, and I feel like my voice always sounds whiny somehow. That bothers me. I don't think I'm whining. I think I'm stating my case clearly with facts and with authority and unemotionally. Other people, like my husband, sometimes disagree with me. So my other example was, I have, it's interesting because I had about 5 people in the last 2 days send me videos about what schools should be and what they should be like. If you're one of those people, don't worry. I did not get offended. I appreciate it. But I find that there's different ways, when people see a system or a large system at work, and they are, they're looking at it, they have a lot of ideas, they have a lot of suggestions, they have a lot of feelings about it. They're part of the system. Let's say they're a parent or a student, but they don't feel like they have any control over that system, right? So how are they supposed to talk about those feelings when they don't feel like they're not enough involved to change the way things are being done, but they know there's something wrong? However, from the other side of the table, I often feel that people who are hitting me with these suggestions and complaints, I just want to tell them, wait, it's so much more complicated. Don't think that there are simple solutions to these very difficult issues. And I find that happens a lot. So basically what we've said so far is there's nuance to complaint. And there's not just one way of complaining, and there's not just one way of responding to complaining. What I'll say is that one thing I could say to you for sure is that people who don't use their voice at all, meaning we're using the word complaint because I think that sometimes when we hear people's voices either disagreeing or pushing back or saying that they feel upset, we hear it as whiny, we hear it as complaining, we hear it as upset, and we become very defensive because of that. However, I'll tell you from the other table, change doesn't really happen if everybody is quiet. It just doesn't. Like if everybody's satisfied with the status quo, obviously I'm not going to do anything differently because, and nobody's complaining, right? So this is the balancing act. Let's get into text together today. We're going to read about 2 different complaints, and we're going to read about the use of words. We're going to read 2, let's see, it's a 111. Let's see what I get to. And I want to see what you guys think is going on in the Torah with this, okay? The first one is in chapter 11. We have right after this most beautiful scene of the whole nation unified, and they follow, and the way it ends is, it's right here. Look, you could even look in my book, the bottom of chapter 10. Every time the Aron HaKodesh, when they saw that it was lifted up and the cloud was on it, they moved forward. And when it's rested, they rested. Another way of saying that they were led completely by God and by their belief and trust in God. And the nation was unified and everybody was happy, right? The tree was happy. And then in chapter 11, it starts with, the people took to complaining bitterly before God, and Vayishma Adonai, and God hears it, and he becomes very angry, and they are punished. Now, and then they cry out to Moshe, and Moshe cries out to God, and this is the relationship. That's just a little paragraph. It's followed, I'm not even going to analyze that with you right this minute. It's followed by a more intensive story. So we're going to read the more intensive story. Right after that, it says, Asaf Suf, Asher Kirbo, Hit Avu Ta'ava. And it says Asaf Suf. It's like a lot of people have different things. The riffraff, the rabble, the people on the, the disenfranchised, the people on the liminal parts of the community they don't start complaining. It says they start to hit avu ta'ava. They start to have a desire. Vayashuvu vayivku gam b'nei Israel, and now all of b'nei Israel start crying. Vayomru mi yachilena basar, and it starts with a few complainers, and very quickly it spreads to all of b'nei Israel, saying, "Who is going to feed us meat?" Okay, and then they say, "Listen." They start crying. We remember that we used to have fish in Egypt that we ate for free, and cucumbers and melons and leeks and onions, and now our gullets are shriveled. There is nothing at all, nothing but this man to look at. That's what they say, right? Now, anybody reading this, you gotta laugh a little bit. You're like, what the hell are they talking about? Life was amazing in Egypt. We used to get food for free. You were slaves. What are you talking about right now, right? So they're very upset, and the source of their consternation is, and they say it like this, Va'ata nafshenu yevesha en kol bilti el haman enenu, right? They say and the language is very interesting, our souls are dry, right? Nafshenu yevesha, our insides feel dried up because we have nothing but man. The Torah inserts at this moment a description of the man. Now we know from Sefer Shemot that the man is considered, right, tal min hashamayim. It's some type of heavenly dew that falls from the sky. And the Torah goes on for a paragraph to say, listen, the man was like a coriander seed, and it was white, and they would grind it, or they would cook it, or they would boil it, and they make it into cakes. It tasted like a rich cream, and the dew would fall on the camp in the night, and then they would gather it. I want to just ask you, before we go any further, if anybody wants to unmute themselves and join me, what do you think about the nation's complaint, and are you okay with it or not? How do you feel like this is going so far? Anyone? 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 Me? By myself? Anyone? Okay, I'll do it by myself.
Well, I'll just say S real quickly.
Thank God for my dad, guys. Yeah.
I think that their complaint is very the term hit avu ta'ava. They're lusting after something. It's over the top. They're going to, things are okay. Everything was satisfactory, but they were lusting. When you use that term ta'ava, you have a ta'ava for something. It's pushing. They're pushing the envelope. There was no need to push the envelope like that. Things were good. Things were fine. Everything was working. So
I'll say it a little bit more strongly. Because I'll say it like this. In general, and Daddy, I think you'll agree, there's never a time in the Torah, and I'm just giving you this for context, where if the people complain and cry out for water, that Hashem will get angry at them. It doesn't happen.
That's correct, because in the very beginning with Marah, they were thirsty, and okay, let's resolve their issue.
Right. Right. And I think it's an important context to keep in mind, because that distinction is significant when we're looking at this, that the Torah is 100% okay with complaining. This came up with our conversation about Megillat Ruth, where Naomi is complaining and saying, God, you've turned against me and you've taken everything from me and I'm very bitter at you. And there's no language of, you're not allowed to speak that way. So this complaint is God is upset about it. And there's this relationship between understanding the difference between the complaint and the request. Somebody once told me, every time somebody complains to you, turn every complaint into a request. Just do it in your brain. So let's say you have to figure out, what are they really asking for? What is behind all of this? Not the tone or how much it is, but what is driving the complaint forward? And in the Torah, and I'm going to read you one more complaint because it comes right afterwards, and we're going to compare and contrast them. So the nation just complained and they want meat. Next, the very next line is, Vayishma Moshe et ha'am bochel lemishpachotav. Moshe hears them. Ish lepetach olo. Everybody is crying at their door of their house. Vayifchar Adonai me'od u'bnei Moshe ra. God is getting upset, and Moshe feels like this is not good. Vayomen Moshe el Adonai. Moshe turns to God and he says, Lama harayot la'avadecha v'lama lo matziti chen be'enecha lasum et masa kol ha'am hazeh alai. He says, what have I ever done to you, God, that you have given me this nation to take care of? Ha'anochi hariti et kol ha'am hazeh? Did I get pregnant? Did I ever get pregnant with this nation? Im anochi yildituhu? Did I give birth to them? Ki tomar elai sa'eu bechekecha kasher yisah ha'omen et hayonek, right? That you're telling me, did I conceive them and give birth to them? That now I have to carry them in my bosom like a nursing mother, right? Right? That I have to carry them into this new land. Where am I going to get meat to give all of them? What the hell are they doing? I can't handle these people, right? And then he says, I can't carry them by myself because it's too heavy for me. And if this is what you're going to do, you should just kill me and end my misery now. I don't think in school we remember that Moshe ever reached this point of breaking and complaint. And what's very fascinating to me is here we have two stories side by side. In both stories, we have people crying and upset and angry and pushing back. And clearly, anybody who's reading the text well knows that the only thing that differentiates between these two complaints is where they're emerging from, right? And there's going to be two solutions. Both of them are going to be solved by a wind that comes from God, a wind that comes from heaven, a ruach. And the ruach is going to bring two things with it. One thing it's going to bring is nivuah, and the other thing that it's going to bring is this meat for the nation to eat, these birds, this ochel, okay? And the Torah seems to be saying, if at the heart of what it is that you're like, if the heart of what you're asking for and begging for and complaining about is a spiritual complaint, is the desire for growth, is a desire for help, is a call to God that says, I feel that there is a spiritual lack here. I feel that I need more guidance from God. The answer almost immediately is going to be, I will send help for that. Whoever is complaining about that needs to be helped and supported. When the nation is complaining about meat, basically what they're rejecting is man. And we know, and now I want you to think about the Torah less literally than you're used to. You know, we always think about the nation in the desert in this very physical sense. How did they survive? What were they eating? I would get bored of man also. You know, people have that conversation with me. Who wants to eat the same thing every day? It's the wrong way to look at this narrative. This is a narrative that's not about what food the people are putting in their mouth, but what they desire. And here their desire is for something very ugly. It's a rejection of heavenly sustenance, like the man, like a sort of divine sustenance, and a moving towards something that's a lot uglier than that, a desire for something very banal, for the Torah, the epitome of what it tries not to feed people with is this like something that's dead, like a dead meat. I told you this in a previous class. This is why my family is vegetarian. It's very hard to wrap your brain when you really read the Torah. It's very hard to wrap your brain around killing something and eating it, because clearly the Torah does not favor that model. But either way, when at the heart of the request, if the request is, I am looking for growth and development, the sensitivity that you need to bring to that request, despite whatever tone the request is taking is enormous. If the request is one of selfish desire, of a regression, of take me back to Egypt, okay? Take me back to that enslavement. Give me something that is not going to provide me with sustenance and life, but something that's almost going to pull me back into destructive habits. God's answer to that is no, I don't stand for that. That's not who I am. That's not what I believe in, right? And this distinction is very important. I actually will say it's important for us to keep in mind with our children. If you have, I'm sorry, a lot of what I say is with our children because I'm a mother, but you could apply it to whatever parts of your life. But I often have to think about what are my children trying to say to me right now, not how are they trying to say it to me, right? And you got to forget the how they're trying to speak a lot of the time. Because most of the time when you're talking to your kids, not all the time, Sharon, just a lot of the time. Because most of the time, when you're talking to children, they don't know how to articulate what they want and what's bothering them. You got to help them figure out what it is. And you're going to have to help them articulate that because they're bad at it. Sharon, go for it. You have to unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself.
Would you give that same pass to your husband?
Yes,
it
actually,
doesn't matter the way he says it. Look into why he's saying, not the way he's saying.
Not to give you too much insight into my marriage, we could ask Ricky to come in. No, but I'm going to be very honest. So many of the conversations that I've had to have with my husband is, he is one of the, like, he's a very, I'm going to say nice things. He's very gentle. He has a very gentle way about him. I am not very gentle. I have to just tell you. When I'm upset, it comes off very strong. I feel like I always have to explain to somebody, I'm heated right now. I'm angry, but I'm not angry at you. I'm not actually, right? And so a lot of what I have to learn how to do, yes, is to modulate my tone and to take it a step down. But a lot of the times I want him to know, don't get upset with my angry tone. Try to see past it and know what I'm really upset about is something else. There's a maturity level there. How many of us in this Zoom, I'm sorry, are so good at knowing when we're in a bad mood or upset about something or feeling upset, that we're so good at having the right of taking that patient tone. If we get to the patient tone, then we usually say, we'll let it go till next time, right? Once we calm ourselves down, we say, do I really want to make a fuss about this? My example that I also would want to give is like the restaurant life. You know how you have the friend who sends the soup back and the friend who eats the soup? Like, I'm the person who eats the soup. This is not what I ordered and it's ice cold. But when I'm with that other friend, I'm like, oh my God. Are you really going to, wait, no, don't call the waiter over. No, this is mortifying. Can you watch your tone? No, right? And so, yeah, we have those two different things. Guess what? They always get the right soup. And I spend a lot of time saying, what the hell am I doing with this stupid bowl of soup that I didn't order? And then you get the bill and you're like, I'm not paying. Wait, that was $25. So yes, I don't think it's right to lose your tone of voice, but I do think it's important to think about what I just said, that at least in the Torah, Hashem thinks about the distinction between somebody being angry and complaining and somebody finding a way to find out what's at the heart of this. Like, where is this coming from? Okay. I want to just go quickly to the second half of this. So Hashem solves that problem. But you know what? I'm going to press pause for a minute. Actually, I want to do a part 2 in a minute because I want to talk about Miriam and Aharon, and then I'm going to conclude the class there. But before I do, does anybody want to, Michelle Fallick, perfect comment. They probably spit in the soup. Yeah, it's so true. Does anybody want to talk to me? Raquel, go for it.
Okay.
You have to unmute yourself, Raquel.
I wanted to say.
Oh, sorry. Raquel, I'm going to let Sally and then Raquel. Yeah, hi, Sally.
They were never hungry. If they would be hungry, they would appreciate man very much. They were never hungry.
Yeah. And I think the Torah agrees with you. It's saying, it's not only that they weren't hungry, it's that their hunger is a ta'ava. And Hashem knows that ta'ava is not a belly hunger. It's a different thing. And that's what he distinguishes. Raquel, what were you going to say?
No, nothing.
Oh, sorry.
Nothing. When you are hungry,
Yeah.
when you are hungry, you don't think about anything else. You got to eat grass and worms, everything, when you are hungry. So they were not hungry. They didn't care.
Sally is, if you don't know Sally, she is a Holocaust survivor, and she's speaking to us about how people don't understand what hunger is. And if you are hungry, you don't ask for meat. You say, thank you for what I'm given, right? Raquel, what were you going to share?
Okay, so I maybe I have a wrong way of looking at this, because I kind of feel bad for.
Oh, we lost her. I'm sorry. Wait. Everybody, wait. Don't get frustrated with technology. Raquel, don't touch your phone. I'm gonna do it. This is like when you're both trying to open the car door and you can't open the freaking door. It's not unmuting. I got it. Oh, it's not unmuting. It's not letting me go. You try one more time.
Good?
Yeah, go.
Okay. So I'm wondering if their hunger, I agree with you. I don't think that it was a physical hunger. It couldn't have been, because Hashem made a miracle. So it has to be, perfect. But I'm wondering if maybe the hunger that they had, like you said, was a different kind of hunger, maybe something of their routine. I mean, they used to wake up and they had to work, and they had to work very hard. But at the end of the day, you could see something that they made. They built cities. You know what I'm saying? They had accomplishments, even though they were working out of slavery, and they had a routine, and they had a specific routine. I'm wondering, and part of that routine probably was getting fish and a little bit of meat or whatever they got. And I'm wondering if it was really the routine that they were missing.
So this is what I'm saying about, I'm going to actually disagree with, I hear your question. And I think a lot of us, I'm going to mute you. A lot of us feel when we're listening to Bnei Israel, we're like, but Hazaton, and they just came out of the desert, and the Mitzrayim, what do you expect of them? But the Torah is very careful about distinguishing, like I said, between their valid desire for certain things and their invalid desire for certain things. And the route that I want to push this class to looking towards is look for the underneath. Look for what's propelling them. Is it about being productive? It's not about being productive. Is it about getting closer to God? That's not what it's about. Is it about, yes, we have to connect this to what's going on now. Is it about a desire for equality? Is it about a desire to have a voice in the society? Yes, and that's why a lot of people are comfortable with that. And then we'll hear other voices and we'll say, wait, that part of that voice I'm not comfortable with. This part of this complaint I am comfortable with. And making those distinctions are very hard. The Torah says, never think that you know what's going on with people just because of the fact that they sound that to you they might sound like, what are they so upset about? You got to investigate. Moshe is very upset. God investigates it and says, he's right. He's right. He's angry. He's correct. I have to do some resolution. For Bnei Israel, he says, nope, it's not, you're not coming from the right spot. So there's that distinction, and it's hard. And it's hard, and you have to be paying attention. I'm going to say pretty overtly right now that in our society today, what I wonder about a lot is how people are not getting to the root of that conversation and feeling comfortable around. We all want to see greater equality in all societies, and especially in American society. And whether we like exactly the way that complaint is coming forth or not, to know that at the very heart of it, it's something that we believe in, right? And it's something we agree with. So when we're pushing back, we have to think, why are we pushing back? What are we pushing back against? What are we worried about? And what are we encouraged about? What agenda do we want to push forward? And now I want to talk about the second half of the class. Second half of the class is, first half is, there are people in a society that are complaining. The second half is going to be, that's globally, that's individuals, that's a lot of people on the street. The second half is, what about unique individuals in their own privacy of their own home, okay? And that's the story of Miriam and Aharon. The story of Miriam and Aharon is, they are, when they're in Chatzerot, this is the very next scene, Vatidaber Miriam v'Aharon b'Moshe. Aharon and Miriam are talking about Moshe. Al odot ha'isha kushit asher lakach, ki isha kushit lakach. This story is crazy. okay? But not crazy because it's so normal. Miriam and Aharon are talking about their brother. He took this Isha Kushit. We don't know what it means. There's many layers here possibly, but they're chatting about it together. The rabbis say, guess what? This is how all Lashon Hara starts. What? No, we weren't talking about Lashon Hara. We were just talking about his fiance. Okay, yeah. They say, like, you start off by saying, oh my God, isn't she so gorgeous? And then you start saying, I don't know, but did you hear about her father, her mother, right? And it slowly devolves. And next line is, Vayamru harak ach b'Moshe diber Adonai halo gam banu diber vayishma Adonai. And then all of a sudden they start saying, does God only talk to Moshe? God also talks to us. You're like, we started talking about his wife, and now all of a sudden we're talking about his level of prophecy, and if Moshe is the right prophet. And here the Torah comes in and says, and Hashem comes down and he talks, and Hashem says, listen, it says that Moshe was the most anav Adam that ever lived. And all of a sudden God appears and he says, you don't understand what prophecy is. He calls them out. He goes, everybody else has prophecy in a dream or in a vision, but I talk to Moshe face to face, not through a riddle. And how could you demean him this way and speak badly about him this way? What I take away from this narrative is a few, I mean, there's many things. I want to do a class about prophecy about this, and I think we should do a class about prophecy and what the nature of prophecy is according to the Torah. But there's also this dialogue around, we think that our private conversation that we're having, where we're gossiping a little bit, is not significant. We think that if we just share a little bit of information with each other here and there, what does it really matter? And in fact, the Torah will almost universally say that that's never so. I am very interested in the idea, and Daddy, I might call on you again if you're still there. How frequently does the Torah feel that the root of all of societies, not of all evil, because I said it was the ego, but so much of, I'm going to say that before the Torah is going to talk about war, killing people, and violence, killing people, it talks a lot about these slick tongues, this gossiping tongues, and the way we exchange information with each other, and the snide and the sly little things that we're going to insert into conversations about one another. Daddy, you still there, or did I lose you? I guess I lost you.
I'm here.
How frequently in Tehillim is that mentioned? That idea of the people with their tongues coming and using their words and their language to distort reality.
Very, very much, and always with, of course, with a clear statement. Although it's not, you don't necessarily see it on the surface of what's being written, but it's there, clear, with ulterior motives.
Yeah.
It's always with an ulterior motive. It's never just a small conversation. Deep down inside, there's a power guy involved, whether it be someone from the religious establishment or from the political structure, and they're out to destroy somebody. And I think that clearly is being said and goes all the way down the line to the example you gave of two people talking to each other. There's always a very subtle objective behind it, and that is whether it's from the top of the people, the leaders, all the way down to the two men or the two women or whatever talking to each other with an objective.
So I agree with my dad 100% that the Torah feels, and so many of its laws actually, before it's ever going to tackle that you can't harm another person physically, are the ideas that you should not be using harmful or dangerous language with one another. Your words matter. The language you use matter. There's something, whenever you're sharing and whenever you're engaging, you're affecting another human mind. And like the coronavirus, each human mind then affects another human mind, and it spreads and it spreads and it validates and it validates. And it slowly creates a scenario where everybody's saying the same words and everybody's sharing a group think. And group think is anathema to the Torah because it says There's subtlety to things. There's nuance to things. You have to investigate. You have to do research. Don't buy into language so quickly. Are you being careful? Are you being careful with your words? And yes, this is something that's very, very important for me right now. It's been coming up in a lot of our classes for sure. What I find interesting is that in this instance, the Torah says that the punishment Miriam ultimately gets is sarat. It takes her out of the camp. And when she's out of the camp, you know, the expression that the rabbis use around this is Miriam was going to use her position within the camp to spread negativity. And the punishment for that is pull yourself away from the community for a while and be silent and alone for a little bit before you could re-enter and have your voice matter. And that's such an interesting punishment for gossip, right? Which is the idea that you can't use your words for a while. You have to take a break on having the power of your words affect other people. These are the stories that dominate in,
Esther, just very quickly for a second, because it's so blatant on the lines of what you're saying. Not only that the fact, if you don't mind my saying it, because when I give this class, I always point this out, and I think it's
go for it, Daddy, go for it.
Yeah. They open up the conversation with saying she's black. She's a Cushite. She comes from Cush, right? Ethiopian, yes. Let's say. And it's an opportunity to start talking about the fact, you know, she's an outsider. She's not one of us. There was nothing wrong, of course, with any of this. It was just they started and went, because you said she ends up with Sarat, continuing with what you said, overlaying. And it says she was white like snow. So think about that. She opens up the conversation with charging her with being black, and she ends up with the skin disease, and she's white like snow. And there is a lot of implication behind it, and that's all. Just wanted to let you know that.
I mean, guys, it's hard not to connect our lives to, yes, what's going on around us. I'm sorry, right? That it starts with gossip about somebody who looks different, and it slowly devolves into like this discourse about who we like and who's allowed in and who's not and what we accept and what we don't. I'm not, I always maintain a balance in saying this idea of listening and hearing one another. You know, I had to end on this note. I called, my son was in my room, my 17-year-old was in my room last night. And I asked him, you know, what do you think? How do we create world peace? Because you're the youth, so you're going to be able to do it. And he said, I think the key is respectful dialogue. And then I was thinking about Raquel Jerome was saying, every one of your classes lately is about respectful dialogue. I'm like, I know, I don't know. I guess the Torah really cares about it. But then I told him, I'm like, yeah, but Dave, what if the person you're having a respectful dialogue about says, I think the Aryan race is better and that survival of the fittest should dominate and we should destroy and create genocide for all others. And he was very, very quiet for a very long time. But I just want you to know, I told him, listen, I gave a class about this summer. Somebody took a crazy KKK guy and invited him to his Friday night dinner table every single week for 2 years and transformed him. So and then my husband said, listen, sometimes you have to use force. Sometimes you have to do the dialogues that my family has been having over the past couple of weeks have been transformative. That's what I want to tell you. The conversations have been transformative. We've had to do so much introspecting lately and so much thinking about who we are and what we do and why we do it. I feel that it's been a beracha to the family, to my life, to everything. And that's the silver lining that I'm taking away from this. When you read the Torah and what you read this weekend, please take the time to read these stories very carefully. There are deep, 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 profound messages about the way we're supposed to act on our in our day-to-day life. All of the messages are about kindness, generosity, justice, equality, being civilized, hearing others, spirituality. Did I say that already? Because I want to say it twice, okay? And all of the conversations are about seeing the dark spaces inside of you. Knowing when you're speaking from a place of darkness and when you're speaking from a place of lightness and spirituality. And trying very, very hard to find those light spaces within you and creating a lot more energy around them for the people near you. Rejecting gossip is very hard. Not engaging in gossip is very hard. Together, though, if we are committed to it, we could do so much better. And I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. I care about all of you. I hope you're all well. I just want to end by saying one last thing, that we are still praying for the speedy recovery and return of Susie Bibi to her home and to good health. And I want us to really, I'm going to say it, please use the merit of what you're doing in these days with your children, with yourself, with your lives. Use it to merit, use it to good, use it to create good. And pray to God and say to him, look at how much good we are doing. We need those that are sick and suffering to be healed, to increase our power to be able to do good, because we don't want to be depressed and sad. We want to be healthy and strong so we can make the world a better place. God willing, our prayer should be answered. Thank you, everybody.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. So beautiful.
Thank you, Esther.
Thanks, everyone. Does anybody want to talk about anything? I'm here. I'll hang out for 10 minutes.
Esther, I have a question.
Sharon, go for it.
I feel like in the beginning of your speech, you said that if you complain, it's not really the way, meaning don't look at the way it's done and look into it. But then the second part, you're saying you have to be very careful with your words. So
Yeah.
is it doesn't matter how your words are said, or do you need to be? I felt like it was a little bit.
I'm sorry. I was distinguishing between like group, like there's like a group complaint or even a complaint in general, and gossip, where gossip to me is not a complaint. I don't think it's a complaint. I think gossip is how, you know, how people share words with one another and share language with one another. But I do think that even in a complaint, and I'm sorry if I didn't make this clear, it's 100% so, and I hope that most of us are still on the chat. Yeah, your words completely matter in a complaint. What I was saying is your tone doesn't necessarily matter, right? If your child is saying, crying, hysterically screaming, why don't you ever spend time with me and love me? I feel like you're always on your phone. I don't care about your tone because, and by the way, a lot of people do. They say, I can't hear you, too loud. But you know what? They're saying they want more time with you. Now, if you're very quietly saying, I think we should destroy all of civilization. I don't care if you're saying it quietly. You're wrong. Your words are wrong. Your tone is not important. Your words are important. B'nai Israel words are, we don't want the man. We want meat. Those words, their source is very evil. So it's not, so Moshe and Bnei Israel both complaining. Moshe, like I said, complaining for spirit. Bnei Israel complaining for ta'ava. Does that make sense, Sharon?
Yes.
You're still muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Esther,
Yeah.
are they complaining about ta'ava, or they're complaining because
No, they're complaining for something, Tava. They're complaining for something negative.
right,
Yeah.
or are they complaining because they don't want to be dependent? Because being dependent on someone is the hardest thing to do ever.
I would accept that and I would love that, but it's just not the case here because they're still asking to be dependent on God. They're just saying, we don't like what you're feeding us. Feed us something different. And the answer is he brings them this rainfall of meat, and they're very excited by that. By the way, they're gathering it and they're like sick. But God basically says, like, I was feeding you the right food all along. You're asking for the wrong thing. Use the kid analogy. You're crying and you're crying and you're crying because you want to go on the computer more. No, you can't. It's not healthy for you, right?
Right.
Your boredom and your desire is coming from a bad place, so I'm not going to listen to it. But if you were crying and crying and crying, and it was really about something important, which, by the way, very frequently our children are crying about something very important that we are ignoring.
Right.
Even if it's about boredom, a lot of what we have to figure out is why are they feeling so unfed that the only thing that they think that could feed them is a computer screen right now. How else can I feed my children? Or how do I inspire them better around other types of food? Because clearly they're not getting inspired. So God's other response is, I have to create more Moshes. I need to put more Nevuah in the world right now. I need more nivuah in the world. Sharon, what are your thoughts?
You know what? Rabbi Dweck used to make fun of me whenever I would write him an email in school about a complaint. I would always start it off with a compliment. And like at the end of a few years of our relationship, he said, you know, Sharon, I noticed whenever you complain, you always start the email with something positive, and it lightens the blow of the complaint.
Yeah.
You know, thank you, Hashem, for taking us out of time. We appreciate it. But could you give us something else to eat? One, you know, like I just think maybe people are more open to that. I know I am. Like, I love salmon, but could we get like tuna next week? You know what I mean?
No, I listen. I 100% agree that. Listen, there are certain things I just can't listen to if somebody's being offensive and rude. That's it. I can't hear anything you're saying anymore. You lost me at hello. You know, not you had me at hello. The opposite.
Is Torah supposed to be pleasure?
I didn't hear somebody talking to me.
Is Torah supposed to be something pleasurable? Hi, it's Eleanor.
Was the man? Yes, the man was supposed to. The way the Torah describes it is.
But I think my question is the problem that they're asking for something pleasurable, and is the Torah looking down on that for that reason?
Ta'ava in the Torah is not pleasure.
Okay.
The Torah does say that the way people think about ta'ava is that it's the pleasure principle. And the whole mission of the Torah is to teach people that the things that you think are pleasurable are not pleasurable. They're gonna destroy you. Sorry. They are very destructive things. And it wants them to see the man as something so healthy for them, but they can't. They have a very hard time seeing it. I mean, listen, I would hate if the takeaway from this class, and thank God there's still a lot of people here so I could say it, is people are allowed to complain if they want to. It doesn't matter what their tone is. It's not true. Really, it does matter. And you have to stay respectful, and you have to figure it out, because I'll say, as somebody who is assaulted by complaints, it's mean. And it does push me to become like Moshe. By the way, my reaction is Moshe's reaction, which is, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm giving up on these people. No matter what I do, they never say thank you. They never say you're doing a good job. The only time they call me is to say that I'm doing everything wrong, right? And you're breaking me. Honestly, guys, you're breaking me. But I really do work very hard on that practice of figuring out what's behind it, and why are people reaching out, and why are they sad, and then to find out that a lot of the times they're right. And if I just go like this, la 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 la, I'm not helping myself or them. Yeah,
and
somebody said.
What about the idea of constructive criticism? I mean, we haven't heard that, bandied about, but there's constructive criticism. So a complaint.
That's what I'm saying. If we say, I find that people hear all constructive criticism negatively usually, even though it's not always negative. Sometimes people really need to give you feedback. Right. And what are they supposed to do other than talk to you about it, right? And say, I'm really upset about this right now. This is really not good. So we got to give them that opening. We got to allow for it. But like I said, you got to dig down. A lot of this was also about dig down. Find what's going on underneath it. And if the root of it is evil, you got to work against it. If the root of it is good, you got to work towards it. And you got to work very hard to know the difference. So
could I...
Such a platitude. Hi, Miriam. Go for it.
Hi. I know I never speak up, but I just wonder, so what is the answer why Hashem gave in with the meat? What am I missing there?
I mean, I think the Torah, it's unfortunate. I'm sorry, I'm going to use a horrible analogy, but it's like you let the kid eat as many hot dogs as they want till they throw up. That's the analogy that works. The only way to teach them sometimes is to give them what they ask for, and then let them learn on their own. Is this really what you wanted? Because it's not healthy. They have no restraint. They have no boundaries with it. They fill themselves till they explode. I mean, according to the Midrash, but it's like that.
Esther, I think if you go to Devarim where it speaks about man kind of represents faith. That they had to wake up they couldn't keep the man for more than a day. They had to have faith that it would fall the next day. And you look at Devarim, and it kind of just explicitly says, God wanted to feed you the man to see what was in your hearts, to see really, what you were thinking, and did you really have the faith? And that's like the reason almost. We look at Devarim, it's explicit. You know, it almost represents trust in God. You know,
I think the whole experiment of Bnei Israel in the desert, and I'm going to say that word, experiment, is what type of relationship could a God and his nation develop with one another? What type of trust could they develop? And then we hear a lot about a lot of the problems along the way, but a lot of it is about that. A lot of it is about that.
Right. Sure. And also today, like, I feel like it connects to like this whole Corona thing. Like, that's exactly what we have to do every day right now. Just trust that the next day is going to get better, you know?
Right. While still, you know, taking some measures, guys. I cannot wait. I told you to be in deal and that Corona's over there magically. I love the whole thing. Very excited to see if their science works out.
Have you been having internet
God forbid, really God forbid a million times.
Mine, it just came back, but I couldn't get a link to open.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think somebody wasn't talking to me. Yeah.
Esther, are you coming this summer? Are you coming to Deal?
Yes, I will be in Deal starting in July. Classes are going to continue. I should say, while I have you guys here, that I am thinking of starting a new class that is just intensive textual analysis, actually. It's for hardcore learners. We're going to read something together. It will be text. So if you like that and you're interested,
I love that.
Just text me and let me know, and maybe we'll pick a sefer together that we read through, because sometimes in a large group, it's hard to do that, especially over Zoom. It's been really, really hard. So we'll try to do a little bit more about that. I mean, we try. I hope in these classes that when I read it out loud to you, that you're hearing the words of the Torah and that you're analyzing it with me, but it definitely has to stay a little broader because of the system we're in. All right. I'll end it there unless anybody else has something.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
What do you think changed their mindset? Do you think it was because Hashem gave them all the meat and then they got sick, so they're like, okay, we did something wrong, or our mental, the way we're thinking is wrong and we need to adjust? Because I'm gonna
answer you with an answer that people don't like when I give it, but I think it's the right answer. I don't think the Torah was written for the Jews in the desert. It's not about them, and they are not the ones learning anything right now. These are stories for us. We are the learners in the story. So the Torah is only going to tell us stories from the desert that it finds is instructive for our current life, right? It's not to tell us about what happened with them and every little detail about what happened. It's going to skip a lot. And then whether they learned their lesson or not almost becomes insignificant, because they do not. And instead, it's gonna show permutations of how human beings. It starts off with the ideal, and then it's gonna keep having permutations about how the ideal gets broken. And then as you investigate how the ideal is broken, you learn about behaviors that you should and shouldn't engage in for yourself. And that's what we did in class today. We spoke about how to complain, how to use our words, what is the effect of gossip, what power is there behind our language, how do we transform things to look for good rather than evil. These are the deeper lessons of the Torah. Does that make sense, Raquel?
It makes a lot of sense. And I saw that someone on the chat wrote, is it fixable or something like that? I don't remember the exact words. I could look it up right now.
What if it's unfixable?
Yeah, so my point was, it sounds like it's very fixable, because obviously they still were allowed to go into Israel at the end of the day. It sounds like they're in the infancy state of their, growing into adulthood to receive,
I'll tell you the answer, and then we could conclude, because now it's 2:00 almost, right? The Torah's conclusion is nothing's gonna be perfect. You're never gonna be fixed. You're never gonna get there. It's never gonna be that not for a long time. You might have these little decades here and there, sections of time where things are really idealistic, but human beings are gonna slowly evolve into a state of learning and growing, and they forget it and then they learn it again.
Yeah.
That's why for Judaism, you have to read the Torah once a week in your life, because it really feels that these stories will be very instructive and very helpful as you're navigating. All right?
Thank you.
I have it 2:00. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great week.
Have a great week.
Thank you, S.
Thanks,
Love you.
everyone.